Thank you very much, Nars. I will not go through greeting everyone. I will just want to say good evening to all my former colleagues in the Ramos cabinet. My dear friends, I open with a question. How does one do justice to the life of a remarkable person? A man who, despite occupying the highest post in the land, lived his life with discretion, with humility, and dignity. We owe our democracy to him. While President Cory was the enduring symbol of its restoration, the role of then General Ramos and later Secretary Ramos in ensuring its preservation is not often talked about in great detail. President Ramos, as we all know, is one of the heroes of EDSA and was instrumental in its success. In his biography written by W. Scott Thompson, Joe Almonte described General Ramos as someone who, quote, no desk-bound commander, often in the field, living with the soldiers where they were. He knew all his field commanders intimately. Only he could call them down, call him to our side. When he led the soldiers in the EDSA revolution, he placed his country above himself. He placed his country even above his family. He knew the importance of democracy and was willing to risk his life. As Secretary of Defense, I saw it. When I was Secretary of Labor and Secretary of Justice, I was with the President Ramos as Labor Secretary, and he was the Defense Secretary. And at that time, there was turmoil in the labor front. My good friend here in Nieves can witness that. We were together in the Department of Labor. But President Ramos provided some stability in that very unstable labor situation by signing that memorandum, issuing the memorandum, which basically said to my soldiers, don't interfere in the picket line. Leave that to labor and management to settle. And that removed a lot of tension in the picket lines. As Secretary of Defense, I saw him defend President Cory and democracy no less than, how many minutes? 9 times? 9 coups during the time. And he was steadfast. And indeed, I saw why he was called Steady Eddie. Kahit ano pong gulo, pag si Eddie Ramos ang kausap mo, alam mo na walang mangyayari doon sa mga nagtatangkang ibagsak ang pamalaan. President Cory recognized his competence, recognized his integrity, and endorsed him for president against all odds. I remember, we had only one governor when President Cory endorsed Ramos, and that was Governor Douglas Cagas of Davao. Wala na po kami ibang kasama. But, and even his brother-in-law, Pipinko Huangco, her brother-in-law, Pipinko Huangco, was silently rooting for the late Monching Mitra. But Cory stood fast, and she endorsed President Ramos as her successor against all odds. President Ramos was not a traditional politician, but it turns out that President Cory made an excellent choice. Being a non-politician allowed President Ramos to bring fresh, pragmatic insights to the presidency. He was a working, thinking president, a technocrat. And we in the cabinet respected him for it. He came to meetings prepared and expected no less from us. He introduced me to the concept of CSW. I am sure all of you former cabinet members know what CSW meant, but not having been associated or not having worked with President Ramos while he was in the DND, I was always wondering what CSW in red ink was all about, until I knew that it meant complete staff work. And these are marginal notes which would clutter whatever memo you have because of that issue of that question. That was the mark of his professionalism and style of management. He took the work of governance seriously, and our country was better because of it. Steady Eddie, he was called. You know, we were confronted with many critical situations during that time. I'll describe to you one. Rene is here and can confirm it. If you remember, there was a shooting in the Magallanes compound, Magallanes Theater. And it caused the death of a certain colonel who was a classmate of Secretary Ramos then, and Rene de Villa, and all those star-studded generals. So there was so much tension that Cory had to confront with. And I remember, Rene, that fateful dinner in Arlegui, where Cory, I faced all the generals. Lahat po, mayroong stars dito. Just his sense of justice and fairness. He looked for solutions. And the solution was Rene and the late Alfredo Lim had dinner in the house, and we tried to settle the dispute. While the three of us were talking, there were armed bodyguards outside my gate in Green Hills. But again, Eddie, as I would recall, he is known as Steady Eddie because hindi po siya kinakabahan, hindi siya nararattle. Basta he just looks for the solution. That is the kind of person that I recall of President Ramos. And he earned that moniker not only Steady Eddie, but also he made the country turn around economically, so that from being a sick man of Asia, that we were called, by the end of his term, the Philippines was Asia's rising tiger. No small achievement given the difficulties that he faced. Even in his presidency, he would call a right to express his thoughts on policy issues. He would send cutouts of newspaper articles with his comments on them. I'm sure all of you got your own load of those newspaper clippings, his columns in the Manila Bulletin, together with all his notations. From these experiences, you can glean that his love for country was not contingent on him being in public office or holding a position of power. It endured past his political career. He was undoubtedly a patriot who served the country for most of his life. The freedoms we now enjoy are in large part thanks to his courage and resoluteness in defending our democracy. In the Philippines and the modern world, democracy may have been vilified, scorned, or doubted. The The same can be said of the revolution which he helped lead. But we remember this great man and how he was a working, thinking president, a true technocrat. And we in the cabinet respected him for that. He came to meetings prepared, always. And it is sometime in the later part of my political career, when I joined meetings among some bureaucrats, I miss the way President Ramos would conduct the meetings with precision, with full knowledge, with the full grasp of what was happening. And indeed, we will all miss him. We will indeed miss a great statesman who shaped our history. If we are here tonight, being able to peacefully condole with the family of President Ramos, a great part of that is because he fought for our liberties, he fought for our democracy. So it is but fitting that we gather here tonight and pay our tribute to President Ramos. And so let me end by extending my condolence to the family of President Ramos. We thank Ming Ramos and his family for lending us steady Eddie over all those years. The country owes him for where we are today. So with that, let me thank you for this opportunity to share with you, probably for the last time, how our lives were affected by President Ramos, personally and for the country. And by the way, President Ramos was my ninong in my wedding with my wife here, Mila, 25 years ago, together with Cory Aquino. They were sponsors to our wedding. That is why it is with profound personal loss that I feel that indeed I have lost a friend and mentor. Thank you very much and a pleasant good evening to everyone.